Welcome to the Rebel Rise podcast, a place where values-driven founders on a mission for more come to connect, learn, and grow. Here, we celebrate the relentless spirit of leaders building businesses that create real good for their clients, communities, and the world. No subject is off limits, and every episode is designed to bring you clear strategy, steady leadership, and people-first operations you can actually sustain. Get ready to grow ethically, lead well, and build something that works without burning you out. Your impact journey begins right here. Let's go. Today on the podcast, I've got Rick Doyle. Now, Rick is an investing and financial freedom coach who's on a mission to help everyday people build real wealth. So money stops being a gatekeeper and becomes a tool that they control. He's the founder of the Money Circle, where he helps clients to close the gap between where they are now and where they want to be through personalized coaching on investing, debt payoff, and long-term wealth strategy. At the core of his work is a bigger goal, flipping the power back into the people's hands by teaching them how to make their money actually work for them. I'm so excited to dive in today, and I genuinely hope that you not only enjoy this episode, but you learn a ton. All right, welcome to the Rebel Rise podcast, Rick. I am so excited to have you on because we've had so many awesome conversations about what you do, what you're passionate about, and you've helped transform my financial life. So I'm really excited to talk about all of this and hopefully help some of our listeners to turn their situations around too. So first, I just want to start by saying welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, excited to be here. And it's so much fun to watch your growth financially. Like that's why I love what I do. So it's cool to watch.
Thanks. I feel like a whole new person, honestly. So
isn't that funny how that works? It's like as soon as you start achieving more financial success, you're like, oh my God, this is great. Like, and then you build more confidence. Like, it's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, where is this money that I thought I didn't have? This money that I thought didn't exist. And when with nothing else changing, all of a sudden I have money to like accomplish goals. So before we dive into that, because I want to spend most of the time talking about those things, because that's like your passion and your zone of genius. How did you kind of come about to this being what you identified as your calling?
Yeah. So struggling financially is really the answer. So it's not what I started in. It's not what I went to school for. It's not even something that I had not a lot of knowledge on or knew that I was passionate about. So my background, to shortly give it to you, was I was a mechanic, actually. My dad was a mechanic, so I figured let me just follow down that avenue. And I graduated from college in Illinois, got my degree, started working in the field, and realized that I wasn't happy with where my life was, with the direction of where I was going. And I just couldn't see myself continuing down that path anymore. And so I started to look at my financial situation, and there was goals that I had. And this was probably around the time I was 24-ish. I started to look at the goals I had between buying a house and going on vacations, and, eventually I want to get married someday, and I want to be able to give my kids the life that I never had. And I started to look at my finances, and it was a sad reality. I found myself in a position where I felt that weight on me of like, there's no way I can possibly get where I want to go. There's no way that I'll ever be able to afford a house on this income. So it really took an introspective look into like where I was in my life and where I wanted to be. And what I realized is that I didn't have the skills that I needed in order to achieve the goals that I had in life for purchasing a house and, going on vacations and being able to invest the way that I wanted to. So I literally just started self-teaching finance as much as I could. And the more that I read, the more that I fell in love with it. And that led to, I started with just reading financial education books and, you know, all the things that I could possibly learn about money. And then I moved into the banking world. And when I was in the banking world, I learned even more. But what was interesting was as I'm sitting with clients in banking, it didn't matter how much money they had, whether they were coming in there living paycheck to paycheck or they were somebody who was very well off. What I learned was that financial education wasn't something that most people had. They have no idea how money worked. And for me, I everything I learned about finance, I became fascinated with, and I figured out ways to put those in terms that were very simple to understand. And that's what really led to where the money circle is now, which is we're a financial education community, and we've been able to break down money in such a simple way that people can relate it to their specific life and be able to put in little small action steps in order to achieve more wealth. So for me, it really just started with self-teaching finance, which led into me getting into banking and investment banking specifically, and then launching my community and helping more people better understand finance. So it's kind of like a full circle thing, but it really started with me not understanding money and wanting to get better at it. So,
Yeah. So I know primarily you help people who really don't understand what's going on in the world of finance, right? Like maybe they're buried in debt or they want to learn finance, or it really doesn't, like, you help people of all different phases. But what is it that you think within your community with your experts or even your private offerings that you have, what is it that you think really helps to shift somebody's perspective by and large? Like, what are the majority of people, that common misconception that you're able to switch? Like, if everybody knew this,
yeah.
then this would help them to kind of start to
Yeah.
unbury themselves.
Well, I think when you think about the topic of money or finance, there's a lot of things that people don't understand. When we start talking about interest rates, we start talking about the stock market or what's a portfolio, what's a brokerage account. All of that's just way too much information, especially for somebody who's just coming in trying to just figure out their own personal finance. You have all of this jargon where it's kind of like, okay, you're saying these words to me that I don't understand. So because of that, I'm confused. And that's the issue with the vast majority of what finance is they throw all of these terms at you to keep you confused. So what I've really done in the community is just simplify all of it. You don't have to worry about, what a brokerage account is. You don't have to worry about how do I invest in the right stock and how do I do X, Y, and Z thing. Just start with basics, right? Let's start with the foundation. How do you get yourself to a spot where you're able to start saving money? How do you get yourself to a spot where you can start paying down your debt? Let's not focus on all of these things that are a little bit more complex to understand. Let's break money down to a very simple thing for everybody to understand. So what I've really come to learn is just that if you can make money simple for people to understand, everything else will come easy. And once people start taking action on the little things, that's when confidence starts to build within them that, oh, I actually do know more about money than I thought. And with more confidence comes better money skills. So I think just really simplifying money is where I've seen so much success within my personal community.
I think that's been my experience as well. As we've had conversations, the more simplistic that you've made it for me, or helping me to see just these little tweaks and changes. And they're different. Just to clarify for everybody listening, it's different than just focusing on saving your $5 and like, don't go to Starbucks and buy a cup of coffee, because that feels, I think, kind of ridiculous to some people. I don't think that that works necessarily, and there's better solutions. So do you want to maybe speak about what some of those solutions are that are better than just trying to save $5 a day?
Well, yeah. So it's everybody's different in money, right? So it's really about building a foundation based on where you are. So money is something that we all have different goals. We all have different levels of debt that we have. We all have different income. We all have different situations. So you can't treat finance as a one size fits all. That's just not the way it is. So what you want to do is, as an individual, you build a foundation based on what's important for you. So if that's, for instance, I want to start saving money for my kids to go to school. Okay, so what does that look like for you? How do we make this so simple that it's like second nature for you. It's like brushing your teeth, right? So rather than, trying to structure one and put everybody in one box where it's like cut out Starbucks or cut out Hulu or cut out Netflix or whatever, that's not going to work for everybody, right? But there are other avenues that will potentially work for you where it's like, let me give you an example. And this is just one that comes off the top of my head. Some people want to travel more, right? Well, there's really good benefits for you to have healthy debt. Believe it or not, there's this term where people just think that debt is bad all of a sudden. There's a such thing as good debt and bad debt. So there are benefits that you have where in certain credit cards, you can actually get points and rewards for using those credit cards. So now you can afford to travel more. So you're not doing anything but using a different card. And then you're just paying that card off, right? So there's different ways and different things that people can do, different products, different strategies to help people be more in alignment with the goals that they have. And so for me, what I've really found in finances is that sometimes you have to get creative with solving problems. You can't just box everybody into one avenue and say, start cutting things out. That's just not the way it works. So you want to give them a solid foundation and small actionable steps that each person can do that doesn't feel like work, that will start to make those goals that they have financially more doable. So that's the way I look at it with every single person I talk to.
And I think that's super helpful, right? And like, I'll just fully disclose too, where I started with mine was completely different. I did a debt consolidation, and that was my thing. It wasn't about me constantly overspending. It was about the money that was sitting in, I think I had like 6 different credit cards, and it was hard to keep up on. So in order to consolidate, I looked for something with a better interest rate or something that had no interest rate for a period of time and combined it. So then I was just focusing on one payment, which was great because it also gave me some breathing room. So just like, ending a subscription, if you're somebody who maybe has too many subscriptions, like that would be a really good option for them. But then somebody like me who it's like, well, it's just that I'm paying 10 different credit cards a month and they're all over the place. And that's the overwhelming piece, because if you're trying to pay $100 a month on 8 to 10 different credit cards, that adds up really quick. But if you can consolidate it, then you're also making yourself some wiggle room for things that you enjoy too, which.
And I think that's a good point too, is it's simplifying, right? If you can take finance and simplify it for something that's actionable for you, then it makes hitting financial goals easier. So like for you, with what you just said is, I'm going to do a debt consolidation. So rather than being spread out with 8 different payments, I have one. Well, now that frees up more energy for you and more anxiousness for you. So now you're feeling a little bit better about your finances. Not a lot has changed, right? You still have debt, but now you're a lot more clear on the action that you need to take. So it's just little things like that, that if you can take finance and make it into something digestible for each individual person and make it something that's easy for them to accomplish on a daily basis, that's what leads to financial success.
And the other thing that you talk about a lot that's beyond the literacy of simplification and having everybody understand that is the mindset behind it, right? You mentioned energy. So do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because I feel like that piece is missing in most other programs or coaches, strategists that you see.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's by far the most important part. When I'm working with a client, I always tell them there's a million different ways to make $1 million. I mean, really, it's not one size fits all. There's a lot of different ways that you can hit your money goals. But the most important thing is you have to prepare yourself in order to see those options that you have in front of you. So unfortunately, here's what a lot of people do. They focus on where they are right now. And where they are right now is, in most cases, a place that they're not happy about. They feel anxiousness. They feel, I don't know how I'm going to make ends meet. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. All of these negative things are coming in at them, and that's what they're constantly focused on. Well, when you're doing that, you're not thinking clearly. You're not giving yourself a chance to sit back, relax, and breathe and look at all the possible avenues. So you're naturally working against yourself because you have all of these things going on at the same time that's putting you in a position where you just feel like I'm trapped. I can't do anything. And unfortunately, it leads to procrastination and it leads to inactivity. So what I talk about a lot is you want to try to free up as much of that energy as you possibly can. And when you do that, and this is an actual, you can go look this up, this is a scientific study, but when you are in a state of fear, lack, scarcity, you're actually lowering your IQ level. You're not as intelligent as you are when you are somebody who is more up on the vibrational scale or emotional scale, where you're more open to possibilities. So one of the things that I was talking about in my community just this last Tuesday is how if you can free up some of that energy, what it does is it actually gets you to a state where you're thinking more clearly, and you're starting to realize that even though like you're in this position, yes, there's the reality of the situation. Yes, you might be in a state of, living paycheck to paycheck, but you're not letting that stop you from taking a step in the right direction. Then that's what ultimately leads to wealth. So a lot of times what people confuse is they think that wealth is something that is only designed for a select few people and you'll never achieve wealth. But that's just simply not true. Wealth is built on the back of discipline and consistency, which means that in order for you to hit any sort of money goals you have, you really only need to take small actions repeated over and over and over again. So for some people, that's, I want to pay off my debt. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to throw a little bit more money at your debt on a consistent basis until it's paid off. If you want to build an emergency fund, same thing, right? I need to put a little bit more money into my savings account every single day until it's there. Or I want to start investing, or I want to start building my wealth. So you add a little bit of money to it over and over and over again. And then what happens is over time, you eventually hit that goal. But if you don't have the clear mindset, if you're constantly in this position of lack, scarcity, fear, you're automatically lowering your IQ, which means you don't see the possibility in what's in front of you right now and the opportunities you have in front of you right now. Because what you think is small is not small. It adds up over time, and that's what builds wealth. When you can clear that energy, that's what actually opens you up to this concept of hitting those finance goals, hitting those money goals, to start building wealth for yourself. So I think that, unfortunately, one of the biggest things in finance that isn't taught is how much your energy actually attracts money. And that's why you'll see the rich get richer. It's because they don't have any of these negative beliefs towards money. They don't have any of these negative thoughts towards money. I know, and I'm sure you can attest to this, growing up, we've heard things like, money is the root of all evil. Money doesn't grow on trees, right? The rich are going to continue to get richer and we're going to get left behind. Well, if you keep that belief, it's like Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can, you're right. So if you think that I'm going to be broke for the rest of my life, I didn't grow up on the right side of the tracks, money doesn't grow on trees, all that stuff, you're right. So you have to slowly start putting your thoughts and your feelings in alignment with where you want your finances to be. And when you do that, energy starts to flow more freely, and that's when possibilities open up to you. So it's the same kind of concept as breaking money down to its smallest possible form to be able to understand it easy. Same type of concept, except just from an energetic standpoint.
Yeah. And I love that theory. I guess I shouldn't call it a theory because we know that it's true. And as a coach, I used to coach mindset. So I very much know and believe in the power of that. And so I would just add on, if I could, to this, anybody who is sitting here listening to this feeling like, well, that's not going to work for me because I'm never going to dig myself out. It is exactly for you. And the best way to do it is to start to take those little actions and to prove to yourself that you can do it. It doesn't happen overnight. Yep. And I felt that way. I remember telling you like, well, I have X amount of dollars in credit card debt and I'm literally never going to be able to do anything. I had no retirement. I've got nothing. Like, it was like, I'm just that broke millennial. And I've completely turned it around in less than 2 years. And so while everyone is not going to have the same story that I have or the same turnaround, there is some work that has to go with it, but you've got to be able to prove to yourself like, okay, I can make these little tiny micro shifts. Yep. And the other thing that I want to also add on to this is that as you're paying off your debt, the key to wealth, and I'm going to let you expand on this because I know you're going to have a lot to say about what I'm about to say, is that while you're paying off your debt, you need to have some money starting to work for you. Yes. In the form of investments. Because I think as people start to pay off debt, they think, well, I'm going to replace the debt that I owe, and then I'm going to have this extra money. and I'm just going to put it in a savings account and it's going to
Yes.
sit there and that's how I'm going to accumulate wealth. It doesn't always work out that way because you find a way to spend it, first of all,
Yep.
but also it doesn't do anything for you just sitting in savings. So you want to talk about investing, which I know is like your favorite thing.
Yeah. So, and really just to break that down on a simpler, kind of concept, because this idea
Yeah.
of investing is a sexy term, right? Everybody wants to invest, right? But really what you're doing is you're building confidence in your skill set toward money. So it's like we all have something that we're good at inherently. You have athletes that are good at sports. You have, writers that are good at writing books. And, we all have that skill that we tend to be pretty good at. Money is the same thing. You want to develop those skills and you want to have confidence in those skills. So, what you're talking about is when you actually have money working for you, like in investing and not, putting yourself in a position where you're losing money, what you're subconsciously doing is you're building confidence in yourself that you can build wealth. Because right now, if you look at the belief level that you have, that you can build wealth, and if you're somebody watching this or listening to this podcast, ask yourself this question: do you believe that you can have wealth? For some of us listening to this, you're probably saying, no, there's no shot, right? So what we need to do is we need to start working on that confidence you have that you can do it, that it is possible for you. So what you're actually doing by investing some of your money is, and it doesn't matter how much it is, right? And this is another common misconception is people think you have to have a lot of money in order to invest. No, you don't. Robinhood gives you the ability, and I'm not sponsored, but I really like them. It's really simple to use. Gives you the ability to start with as little as $5, and most investing platforms do that. So if you could start with something small, what you're going to see is your investment's probably going to grow, and when it grows, you're going to start to realize, oh my God, I'm actually better at this money thing than I think I am. Now you're building confidence in yourself, and you're starting with a small amount. So it's like the subconscious aspect of it is you're building confidence in your skill set that you can build wealth for yourself. And that is more advantageous than the money actually working for you at that point. Because if you can gain confidence in, oh, I really am good with money, now you're willing to take bigger steps in order to achieve more wealth. So I think that's the byproduct of what you're talking about is when you're going after your debt and also investing just a little bit of money, you're starting to develop that skill set that's ultimately needed in order to achieve wealth.
Yeah. Yeah. And that helped me a lot. Like I'm making much more bold decisions with my money now. And I know I'm always bragging to you. I'm like, look what I just did. Look what I just bought.
And it's
Look at
fun, right?
it does. It gets really fun.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a little bit braggy, even though I don't quite have the results yet to like really be braggy. But the
I think
point is,
that's a key though too, right? Like
yeah.
celebrating how far you've come. In 2 years, you're talking about how not only have you consolidated your debt, and I know you've paid off a good chunk of it already, and now you're starting to invest, but you deserve to celebrate yourself for that. Because again, that falls right into the confidence category. We want to build you up to the point where you're like, I know exactly what to do with every single dollar that comes in. That's true money skills. And those are the things that will allow you to live the life on your terms and not have to worry about, do I have enough money to go on this vacation? Do I have enough money to buy this house? Do I have enough money to retire when I want to retire? Right? So you want to almost be braggadocious a little bit, not to the point of making other people feel bad, but you should be building yourself up on these little wins. That's one thing that I tell some of my community members is like, I don't care how small you think this victory is, celebrate it. Because what you're doing is you're building more confidence in your skill set as well.
Yeah. And it really does make it fun. It does make it fun to have these little tiny wins and, to go in and check and be like, oh, I made $20, like whatever. It's $20 that I didn't have before,
Right.
And the other piece that I feel like I want to have you expand on about the investment side or having your money work for you, whatever we want to call it, is because people have this apprehension or fear of investing and buying stocks, shares, because if it crashes, they fear that they lose everything. And so I know you'll have a lot of stuff to add to this, but I know the biggest thing for me was that fear and not understanding the true concept of buy low and sell high. because
Yes.
everyone hears that. You don't truly know what it means. And then you flipped it and you told me you buy things on sale. And that like changed everything for me because, of course, as a girl, I'm going to stereotype myself here for a second.
Yep.
I love a good sale. So that also made it so much fun for me. But I know you probably have a lot of other things that you can expand on to make that piece feel more safe and more fun.
Yeah. And it's very valid. I think that's the reason why the vast majority of people don't start investing is they fear they're going to lose money. But statistically, on average, the stock market gains, and this is through all of the turmoil that we've gone through since the stock market's inception. This is taking into consideration when we had the bank runs in 1920, when we had the 2000s crash during the dot-com era, when we had 2008, when everything seemed to be on fire, right? If you take into consideration the history of the stock market, including those quote unquote crashes, right? The stock market has still gained on average between 8 and 12% year over year, which means that regardless of when you're buying stock, if you hold stock, you're going to make money. That's just statistically, historically, it says that. So when you start to understand that it's really not a risk at all, the more risky thing is not investing, then you start to realize like, okay, like this fear that I have is an irrational fear. So what I tell people to do is first and foremost, start with an amount that you feel okay not really caring about, right? So it's like, if that is $5, start with $5 and put it into something safe like an index fund or an ETF that is going to gain between 8 and 12% year over year. You're not going to miss $5, right? And then 3 months from now, I'm going to say I told you so when you're starting to gain money on that $5 and you're like, oh, I have more confidence in this. So you're willing to put more money in. But then on top of it too, one of the biggest traps that a lot of investors fall into, retail investors, I should say, is they get emotional about investing. And this is what you're talking about with buying stock on sale. If we know that the stock market on average gains between 8 and 12% year over year, you're going to see market corrections happen. We're seeing them. We saw them in January of this year, right? We saw a big tech sell-off right now. And a lot of people, what they did, unfortunately, is they went in there, retail investors went in there and they sold because they were panicking. The market's crashing. It's time to, absolutely not. Warren Buffett said, when there's blood in the street, that's when you should be investing. And what he meant is when things are down, that's when you should be buying stock because now you're getting stock at a discounted price. So in your analogy, think about some of the things that you like to buy, whether it be shoes or I'm a car person. I like buying cars. If I can get a car on sale, I'm gonna buy it. Trust me. But it's one of those things that if you can get that favorite item on sale for 30% off, are you going to say no to it? Most of the time it's no, like it's 30% off. Yeah, I'm going to buy it, right? Stock is the same way. When we saw what we saw in January where stocks were going down, anywhere from 5 to 30%, you shouldn't look at that as a panic situation. You shouldn't get emotional about it. You should look at it as oh my God, I'm getting a bargain right now on things that were otherwise unaffordable to me. So this is kind of the mindset shift that I teach in my community is you can't let your emotions dictate your investing. You have to think about this logically. If we know that the stock market averages between 8 and 12% year over year, who cares if it goes down 30%? Who cares? Because on average, I'm still going to average 10% roughly year over year, even taking into consideration that 30% drop. So I think once you have that mental switch, that's what ultimately gets you to a spot of realizing that the best time to buy stock is today, and the second best time to buy stock was yesterday. So just take action and just buy now. Who cares what everybody else is saying? Just do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And what about if you are ready to do it today and you don't know what to buy?
So you want to stick to something safe, right? So this is when we start to talk about building confidence. I don't typically recommend buying individual stocks to people unless they are somebody who has an appetite for risk. So if you're somebody just starting out in investing, what we want to do is we want to build confidence within you that I feel good about the money I'm putting in, but also that money is making me more money. Because if we can get you small wins, you're going to start investing more money, which is ultimately what leads to wealth. So for somebody that's just started in investing, I always say start with an index fund or an ETF. So to put it simply, because I know we were just talking about bank jargon and trying to make things that we're talking about in finance simple, basically what an index fund is, or an ETF is, an exchange traded fund, is it gives you stock in some of the top companies in the world within one stock. So instead of buying a Tesla or instead of buying a Microsoft, imagine you can own all of them by simply owning one stock. That's what you're doing when you're buying an index fund or an ETF. So those tend to be the safest investments that people can make. So if you're somebody that's watching this right now and you're like, I don't know what to buy, simplest thing you can buy, S&P 500 index or an ETF, an exchange traded fund that tracks the S&P 500.
And for people who do have retirement funds or an IRA, Roth IRA, if you don't know what those are, you probably don't have one and you probably should have one of some kind, but they can use those funds as well and should.
So this is something that is a lot of times when you have an IRA or a 401k, you don't know what you're invested into a lot of times. And they tend to, your employer will tend to bundle you into a group of what everybody else is doing. So one thing that I always recommend is dig into it a little bit. You don't have to do a ton of research, but you actually have more options in that 401k or IRA than they ever told you about. And so sometimes there's bigger opportunities within what you already have than you may not even be aware of, right? So one thing that I always do when I was in corporate America is I would go into my 401k and see what options I had for investing, because sometimes they'll put you into a fund that maybe doesn't line up with your goals. If you're somebody who's younger, you can take more risk. So why would I put myself into a fund that is a safer one when I can capture a little bit more upside potential, but still be in something like an index fund or an ETF? So this is where I think the power of the community that I've created with the Money Circle comes in, is understanding the options that you have in investing, because unfortunately you do get lump summed in the finance world with everybody else. But if you want to achieve the goals you have specifically, you have to tailor everything in your finance so that it fits in alignment with those goals. So one thing that I would encourage people to do if they have a 401k, IRA, anything along those lines, take a look at the funds that you're in right now and see if it is best for you. If it's not best for you, it's very simple to just convert those funds and put it into a different fund. It's a couple of clicks in most cases, and they'll automatically rebalance your portfolio for you. Now you're in a fund that fits you better. So,
yeah. And I love that there's solutions for that and things that you don't even have to control. It will just control it all for you.
exactly.
You kind of set it and forget it, truly.
Exactly.
So the thing that I love, and I want to dive into this, is your community, which is your main focus right now, is
Yes.
making sure that everybody has access to all of these things that we've talked about. And you have several different experts in there. And this has been something I have leveraged quite a bit, is not only sharing my wins with everybody else in there, but being able to come in there and ask pretty much anything that I want. And the other members in the community ask some pretty powerful questions as well. So I would love to have you just talk about the kind of things that happen in the community. If you want to share some wins, what you see in there too, but also just like what people can expect, because I would encourage everybody listening, like if you're learning anything from this right now, like you want to be in this community.
Yeah. So the idea for the community came in that when you break money down, again, we're talking about gaining the skill set in money, but we're also talking about gaining confidence in where you are financially. So part of that means that you need the proper guidance, but you also need people that are going to celebrate you and encourage you to continue to take action. Because again, we surround ourselves with people and we're in an environment where most people don't understand money. They don't know if they're doing well. They don't know the action steps to take, and they don't have any confidence in their money at all. So I really streamlined it with the community. And I said, how do we put something together where people are interested in bettering their financial situation, no matter what that looks like, whether that be, I just want to be debt free, or I want to start investing, or I want to buy my first house, or I want to work on my credit. How can we put those people in one community where they have access to experts who will help them take the necessary steps? So again, we talk about simplifying finance. Well, if you're somebody who's working on your credit, you don't know where to start to fix your credit. So why not partner you up in a community with somebody who already has a business that does this or is an expert in credit repair that can tell you, here's the exact steps that you need to take. And oh, by the way, when you take those steps, share the success you've had in taking those steps in the community, because now you're celebrated amongst the entire community. So it's like a perpetual feed loop where it's kind of like, I'm asking the questions that are going to help me hit my finance goals. And the people that are answering it are actually experts in their respective field in finance. I then take those actions. I see success in those results, no matter how small they are. I share those within the community, and then I'm celebrated amongst everybody in the community, which makes me want to take even more action, because not only am I celebrating myself, I'm being celebrated by the entirety of the community. So I really just thought about it from a very basic, simplistic standpoint of, how do we put everybody into one environment where they feel like everybody in that community is just like them, where they're accepted in where they are financially, and where they can get the proper guidance, but also at the same time, they're being celebrated for their decision to take action on where they are financially. So I think that's where the idea kind of started. And it's cool to see just how much people have, number one, taken to the idea, but number two, how much success they're getting. I have people that consistently reach out to me. I had somebody actually just the other day. We've seen a huge growth in gold and silver rate recently. Both of them have hit all-time highs. And I had somebody direct message me from the community that said, I just pulled profits out of gold. I want to give you a shout out for that. And I believe he said he put something along the lines of $1,200 into gold back before the boom happened, and he pulled profits of $1,700 out. So he pulled out more than he initially put in. And now he's able to use that money to do whatever he wants. If he wants to pay off his debt, he can do that. If he wants to start investing more, he can do that. But it's little things like that that just solidify the impact that the business, that the community actually has, because it's actual tangible results that people are getting simply by taking small little action steps and building confidence within themselves that they can do it. So that's just one of many examples. I know you've personally had some success with your debt. I've seen people start investing in the stock market who within 2 weeks have pulled out hundreds of dollars. And, you know, I had one guy, we do charge for the community. It's under $30 a month currently. But within 2 weeks of him joining the community, he made a $1,200 investment profit in the stock market. And it's little things like that that I keep track of. And then not only are you celebrated in the community, but I put that in social media too. Of course, I'm confidential about who's in the community because we're talking about finance, but that gets celebrated for social media to see too, where it's like, if this person can do it, so can you. And then that extends to everybody who may not be in the community. They start to see the results that other people in the community are getting. So they go, I want to be a part of that too. So that's kind of the idea behind it. And that's why it's had so much success, is because, again, it just simply partners people that want to achieve success with experts that will help them achieve that success. And then when they do get success, they're celebrated within the community.
Yeah. And the community has been so helpful to me. I mean, obviously you have been a great help for me too, but I've had wins with investing as well. I guess we don't need to talk about numbers here, but I've had a really good turnaround with that too. And my favorite thing about it is not only do I have access to you in there, but I have access to all of these people. So it doesn't matter if I have a question about a trust, if I have a question about an investment or another debt elimination hack or day trading. Like there's all kinds of different people and different options. So no matter where I'm at or where you would be entering into this community level, there's somebody in there who can guide you, somebody who's either just been there or somebody who is an actual expert. So, not to make it sound like an overwhelming place, it's actually not at all. But my point is to say that you can get what you need in that community no matter where you are.
Yeah, and it's just people helping people. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
at its basic level, we talk about how financial education is not taught in today's society. And that's really the problem that we're solving within the community is we're working together as people that are constantly growing in finance. Like, am I where I want to be financially? No. Like, there's still more growing that I need to do, right? And I know that. I'm humble about that, but that's like everybody in the community. We all know that we are at a certain spot and we want to continue to grow and get better. So you always have somebody in the community that's willing to help you better understand how you do this. How do I take this next step? How do I pay off my credit cards faster, whatever it may be. And that ultimately solves the problem of financial education because we're all just out there to help each other. It's not a competition thing at all. It's if I win, you win. And that's what I ultimately want to see. And that's what everybody in the community wants to see.
Yeah, and it's just another thing that I think makes what you're doing so unique. It's not going to cost somebody a literal arm and a leg
Yep.
in order to unbury themselves from debt. They're not going to have to invest thousands of dollars up front in order to see that. And so I love that that is such a big part of your mission too, is really putting that power back in the hands of the people, because we talk about this all the time too, is that the money is really what controls everything and it keeps us kind of limited. So
Yeah, exactly. And again, just another problem that I saw was when you're working with a lot of these experts, whether it be a financial advisor or a real estate investor or, a debt elimination person, they all have a fee that they charge. When I was in the investment banking world, a financial advisor charges minimum 1% of your total portfolio. So think about it. If you're coming in there with $100,000 to invest, they're charging you 1% right off the bat just to work with you. That's not even saying you're going to get success at all. That's just saying, in order for my time, this is what you're paying, right? Well, I didn't want that to be the reason why people were held back. I wanted this to be something where people have access to it, and it's the cost of Starbucks, less than the cost of Starbucks in most cases. So I think that was part of it too, was like, it's not necessarily about the money. The money is a byproduct of what we're creating here. And what we're creating here is a community of people that just believe that we want to better our situation financially, and we want to help every single person who wants to learn this information. And that's why the success has grown the community has grown as much as it has.
and if people want to get a hold of you or join your community, maybe they don't even have questions, they just want to dive right into it. How do they access it, or how do they
Yeah.
access you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on all socials. It's going to be Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at The Real Rick Doyle. Every day, free content is put out on there to kind of get you started in building confidence in your ability to start creating more wealth for yourself. So every day I'm posting something going on in the news cycle financially and how it actually impacts the individual that's watching the video. And then from there, once you feel confident enough to say, I'm ready to take the next step, I'm ready to take action, then I have my private wealth building community. That one you can find at rick-doyle.com/money circle. And then from there, it's a Facebook community. And we do live trainings every Tuesday about different concepts and different ideas and different changes around money and rules and things that are important to understand so that you can easily navigate them. And then we also do stock calls on Wednesday as well. And then, of course, any questions that somebody may have about finance, you have 24/7 live feedback from all of the experts.
Yeah, definitely encourage everybody to take advantage of these things. Rick puts out a lot of content. That's your other favorite thing is content.
Yes.
I know you're always looking to create. So no matter where you go, there's definitely some sort of way that you can get started with this. Rick, I'm so thankful that you came on to the show today to talk to us about all of this. And I know that people learned at least one thing, if not multiple things from this. So I'm going to make sure that everything is put into the show notes, including a link to the Money Circle for everybody. But thank you so much for being here with us today.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Rebel Rise podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and invite your friends to join us next week. This is your time. Now get out there and rise.